Okay, so the trailer dropped, and I genuinely had to sit down for a second. Like, I needed a moment. Because what Marvel just showed us is not just another superhero movie teaser. It's a statement. It's a declaration. And if you're someone who's been following the MCU since Tony Stark told the world he was Iron Man, this trailer hits different in ways that are almost hard to articulate. But I'm going to try. Because there is so much happening in those few minutes of footage that we absolutely need to talk about. Starting with the single most talked about thing in every comment section, every forum, every group chat right now, Doctor Doom and the very deliberate choice to never fully show his face. Let's start at the beginning. The trailer opens with this oppressive, heavy atmosphere. The score is doing something unsettling, almost gothic, and then you see him. Standing there. That iconic green cloak, that armored silhouette, that iron mask reflecting whatever light dares to hit it. And in that moment, something clicks. Marvel isn't playing around. This isn't a character of the week situation. This is the arrival of someone who's supposed to feel like the weight of the entire MCU is now resting on his shoulders. And what's wild is that none of it, not a single frame, shows you Robert Downey Jr.'s actual face. And that's not an accident. That's a choice. And that choice is everything. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, because you'd have to be living under a rock to not know that Robert Downey Jr., the man who literally built the modern MCU as Tony Stark, the guy whose face became synonymous with Iron Man for over a decade, is now playing the villain, the big one, Doctor Doom. And honestly, the first time I heard that casting announcement, my brain just rejected it. I think a lot of fans felt that same whiplash. Because Tony Stark wasn't just a character. He was the emotional spine of this entire franchise. He was the first. He sacrificed everything. And now the actor who gave all of that to us is back. Except this time he's on the other side. He's the threat. He's the apocalypse. That's not just a casting decision. That's a narrative provocation. Marvel is deliberately using your emotional attachment to Robert Downey Jr. as a weapon. Think about it from a storytelling standpoint. When you see that mask, you know what's underneath it. Or at least you think you do. And that tension, that push and pull between the man you remember and the monster you're looking at, is doing so much work before a single line of dialogue is even spoken. That's genius-level manipulation, honestly. And I mean that in the best way possible. But here's where the mystery deepens. Why is his face hidden? And I know the easy answer is, well, Doctor Doom wears a mask. That's his whole thing. Comic Doom has worn that iron mask for decades. But in the MCU context, with this specific casting, the mask carries a different kind of weight. Because if they just wanted Doctor Doom to be a faceless villain, they wouldn't have cast one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. That would be like casting Meryl Streep to do a voice role and then muting her. There's a reason RDJ is under that mask, and the movie is betting everything on the moment, if and when it comes off. So let's get into the theories, because this is where it gets really interesting. In the comics, Victor Von Doom's backstory is this epic tragedy. He's a genius, borderline in Tony Stark's league. Honestly, who gets disfigured in an accident, creates an iron mask to hide his scarred face, and then lets the mask reshape him into something harder, colder, more ruthless. There's genuine pathos in that origin. Doom isn't evil because he's a monster. He's a monster because he convinced himself he had no other choice. And if the MCU leans into that, if they give Downey the material to play a man who has buried the last traces of his humanity under literal iron, that could be one of the most compelling villain arcs we've ever seen in a superhero film. But here's another layer to consider. We're in a multiverse era. The rules have changed. What if this Victor Von Doom isn't exactly the Victor Von Doom from the comics? What if his origin in this universe is somehow tied to Tony Stark? What if in some other branch of the multiverse, things went differently for someone who was a lot like Tony, brilliant, arrogant, deeply wounded, but who made different choices? That would explain why Downey was cast and why the mask stays on. Because the moment you see his face, the illusion breaks. The audience starts asking questions the movie might not be ready to answer yet. Keep the mask on, and you control the narrative completely. And that control extends to how Doctor Doom affects every other character in this story. Think about Spider-Man. Think about the Avengers who are still standing after everything they've been through. These are characters who knew Tony Stark. Some of them loved him. And now they're going up against someone wearing a different kind of armor, carrying a different kind of power, and the emotional dissonance of that is going to be brutal to watch. Imagine Peter Parker in a scene with Doom. Imagine the camera catching that moment of recognition. Not of the face, because the face is hidden, but of something else. A mannerism, a vocal pattern, a way of standing. That's the kind of storytelling that makes franchises legendary. What I also find fascinating is what Dr. Doom's portrayal says about where Marvel wants to take its storytelling going forward. For years, the MCU's biggest criticism, and it's a fair one, was that the villains were underdeveloped. They were threats, sure, but they weren't characters. Thanos changed that. And now Marvel seems to be doubling down on that shift. Dr. Doom, done right, isn't just someone who wants to destroy the world. He believes he's the only one qualified to save it. He's not irrational. He's terrifyingly logical. He's looked at humanity, looked at the Avengers, looked at the chaos that follows every attempt at heroism, and concluded that the only way to fix it all is total, absolute control under someone, him, who is competent enough to handle it. That's a villain with a worldview. And worldviews are so much scarier than just raw power. The trailer also teases something massive in terms of scope. There are shots in there that feel genuinely apocalyptic. Not just city-level destruction, but something that feels existential. And that tracks with the Doomsday subtitle. This isn't a contained threat. This is the kind of event that reshapes what the MCU even is going forward. And Dr. Doom standing at the center of that, masked and silent and absolutely certain of himself, sets a tone that I haven't felt from a Marvel project in a very long time. It feels heavy. It feels real. It feels like stakes that actually matter. There's also a quieter emotional undercurrent running through everything here, and it's worth sitting with for a second. Robert Downey Jr. coming back to Marvel isn't just a business decision. It's a reckoning with legacy. Tony Stark's story ended with the most heroic sacrifice the franchise had ever seen. He gave everything. He got one quiet moment in the woods with his daughter before he was gone. And now the actor who embodied all of that is returning not to be celebrated, but to be feared. There's something almost Shakespearean about that. The hero who died saving everyone, reborn as the threat that everyone must now face. Whether that's intentional thematic poetry or just excellent casting instinct. Either way, it lands. And that mask, that iron mask, it keeps coming back to that. Because ultimately, the mask is the movie's central metaphor. It's about identity and what we bury. It's about the face we show the world versus the face we hide. It's about transformation, how experience, pain, ambition, and loss can take someone with every advantage in the world and turn them into something unrecognizable. Dr. Doom is wearing that mask because Victor Von Doom needs it. And maybe in this story, Robert Downey Jr. needs it too. To separate what was from what is, to let something new and genuinely dangerous emerge from the shadow of something beloved. When that mask finally comes off, and I believe it will, I believe that's the whole game, it's going to be one of the most talked about moments in MCU history. And I think we all know it. Marvel knows it. Downey knows it. The trailer knows it. Every second that mask stays on is just building pressure toward that release. It's a slow burn that the entire movie might be designed around. So the real question isn't whether this movie will be good. The question is whether it will be brave enough to fully commit to what it's promising. A story where the most familiar face in franchise history becomes the most terrifying thing in the room, hidden behind iron, and completely convinced that he's the hero of his own story. Because if they pull that off, we're not just talking about a great Marvel movie. We're talking about something that redefines what these films can actually be. And honestly, I cannot wait to find out what's behind that mask, because I have a feeling it's not just Victor Von Doom staring back at us.